Hello and welcome to Funded Futures. My name is Emily. I'm your host, and today I am joined by Serena Lam, who is the founder of Fuzzy AI, which is an AI platform that is revolutionizing the way sales and marketers create content and improve their lead generation. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
How did I go with summarizing such a complex and interesting business that you've built?
You did it very well.
I'm trying my best.
No, you did very well. I literally had an hour conversation with my investor on the weekend about this. Because we're doing something different, there are no words to describe it because we're doing something that isn't set in the current mold. And so he gave me such great advice. You almost want to show the category, but then show how you're differentiated. But because we're in such a different space right now, there is no category per se. So we need to find the easiest way to describe it. So I think you did very well.
Okay, I hope so.
Yeah.
So if you were to describe it in a slightly longer form, how did you come up with this? So you did a little bit of sales and that's why you found that there was a bit of a barrier to trying to get these meetings to happen. Because so often I sit there on LinkedIn and I open my inbox and there's hey, how do you go with B2B sales?
I hate that.
We've got some ideas on how we can level that up, and I just ignore them and I don't message them back. You know, how do you improve upon that experience?
Yeah. So I think when you look at it, there's a few things. One, it's probably not relevant to you. They haven't looked at your profile. When they talk to you about B2B sales, you haven't even talked about wanting B2B sales in the first place. So relevancy is super important. Two, I think branding nowadays is way more important than it was before. There's this notion around social selling or expert-led selling. People buy from you, not necessarily your brand anymore. So back in the day, and when I say the day, it's probably even 10 years ago, people would buy from IBM or Oracle. There's this quote, you'll never get fired for buying IBM. But now I think the notions change so much and people buy from people. So it's so important that every individual also builds their brand and has some thought leadership. So even if that person's told you about, hey, do you want to buy some B2B sales product? When you look at their profile and have some level of credibility, they're much more likely to respond to you. Let me change it slightly. Let's say you have a random person reach out versus if Barack Obama reached out. Would you reply to Barack Obama?
Obviously.
Exactly, right? And so when you have some sort of credibility and knowledge around you and you're a thought leader, people are much more likely to buy from you. And so when we built this product, what we saw is a notion around people buy from you. So how do you create a brand around yourself as a salesperson now that we're in the 2026 era? I think people are still building like they did, or they do sales like they did in 2024. And AI has completely changed the game, and how we do sales and go to market is completely different. So thinking about what that go to market 2026 looks like is one, how do you build your brand? Two, how do you create relevancy? So when you do outreach, are you doing the right level of research? What does Emily care about? What does her podcast care about? What is the things that she reads about or posts about on a day-to-day basis that actually makes it relevant? And then off the back of that, you sell. But if you don't have any relevancy, if you have no credibility, if you are being someone that's completely annoying, because we all have those annoying messages on LinkedIn, you're just going to be ignored. So what we did with Fuzzy is how to encapsulate, one, all of that, but two, on the other end, make it really easy for sales and marketing people to adopt.
Yeah, right. This is really interesting because as a podcast host, I get a lot of what I can only assume are AI-generated emails.
Yep.
And it's often people who represent thought leaders and they say, hey, I saw this episode that you did with this person and I really loved this thing that you spoke about.
Yeah.
I have this person who I think will be great for your podcast. They've done this, this and this. Usually they're from America.
Yes.
And I do in-studio records. So I have to reach out and say, hey, thank you so much for your email. Unfortunately, we're based in Australia and we don't do online at the moment, but it's so interesting how it's able to, go through my content. It's able to see episodes and topics of discussion and then make it relevant to the particular guest that they're trying to push to be on the episode. I don't know how we got to this point that AI was able to do that, and it's so clever because I actually do respond to all of them.
Oh, nice.
Because I say, this is quite good that they've gone to this effort to use a program that can actually see the relevance.
Yep.
And I love that. How did you actually create this kind of product?
Yeah, I think so. I was building a completely different startup to begin with. So so my background is in product and tech. I've always been in tech my whole life, always been a product person, but supporting and working with growth teams. And so the first startup that we did was we were deploying AI models onto hardware devices, so edge deployment, which is completely different. We were looking at an infrastructure play. At the time, GPT was growing like crazy, and we thought, what would be something different for us to be relevant? I think we were too early because now a lot of the investors at the time have reached out, but we've completely pivoted. At the time, we built our SDKs out, we built everything, the deployment out, we could even quantize models, but I think we were just too early, and timing is everything. But one of the other things that I seem to be really good at is I was able to get meetings with pretty much anyone I wanted, or a lot of meetings with the right ICP. ICP is ideal customer profile. And so I was surrounded by a lot of founders at the time, and they're like, how are you able to get all these meetings? And so I was trying to teach them and show them all the different software that I use. Yeah. And I think I had to stitch together like 6 or 7 or 8 different tools to show you, to get the exact outcome and to replicate it across all my different founder friends. They could, but it was already like 70 or 80% of the way there. And so one day I thought, I always have avoided the sales and marketing space because the thought process is it's super crowded, it's super competitive, and I don't want to be in a space. I want to be different, right?
Yeah.
But it turns out the products aren't that great. What I've realized that the products are either too complicated and they're built for rev ops or sales ops, so it doesn't help the salesperson, or it's super simple and it doesn't get to where you need to get done. And so what ends up happening is a lot of sales and marketing people don't use any of the products because they just bucket it into the too hard and they'd rather go manual. And so I thought, okay, what if I were to build this myself? And so literally built a Figma design, put some things together and showed one of my founder friends, and they're like, oh, if I were to buy this, how much would it be? And it was the first time someone had asked me how much something was, as opposed to me trying to push someone to use my product, which felt so different in the 1 year of being a founder. And I just like made something up. I was like, oh, it's $99. And he said, yep, sure, get me signed up. Let's do it tomorrow. And it was the fun. And I thought, is he just being nice? So I remember going on Stripe, quickly creating an account, sent a payment link over, and then he paid for it in the day. And I thought, gosh, oh my God, this is something special.
Yeah.
And then I showed more people and more people wanting to buy it. And I was like, okay, there's something here. And so pretty quickly I was like, you know what? People are wanting to pay for it. I'm getting much more pull from the other product, and decided to move everything over to this space. Okay. And as we were building it, I thought, you know what, I'm not a sales and marketing person by trade, but I've supported all the growth teams. Let me go research every single person, understand what their pain points are. Went to a huge deep dive. I think I spoke to about 300 different professionals, and then built Fuzzy off the back of it.
Oh my goodness. Yep. It's funny you say that you're not in a sales background, because the way that you speak is so confident, you're so eloquent, and compared to a lot of female founders that I come across, I think that you've got this really vivacious energy about you, and that you don't have a lot of self-doubt, which is something you don't see in a lot of female founders. And it's incredible to see, and it's quite magnetic. And I imagine that is a lot of why you've been able to get a lot of people on board, because, it is about selling yourself, what you're talking about. I always say this to founders when they're looking for investment. I'll say it is not about your brand. It is about you. Investors are investing in people. Yeah. And as much as, people say, oh, AI is going to take over, it's going to take everybody's jobs, the human element is only going to become more and more valuable as it becomes more rare.
Yep.
So as much as there's, this AI push that you're utilizing to get these meetings, that came from your brain.
Yeah.
It came from your expertise and your experience of being able to get these meetings in the first place, which is incredible. Before we actually started recording, you were talking about how being in the AI space as a founder and a female founder is quite lonely. There's not a lot of women in that. Why do you think that is?
I think being in male-dominated spaces as a whole is tricky. I think, I've worked in consulting, I've worked in banking, and I've had to really change my perspective over time, and it is trained, and thank you for saying that I have a lot of confidence. I think it's built over time, and I've had a lot of moments of self-doubt, definitely. I actually had a debate with one of my friends. He's a founder as well. And we were talking about hiring, and we've got completely different philosophies for hiring. And we had a huge debate on it because he wanted to hire someone who was confident but not necessarily competent. Whereas I don't really care about confidence because I believe confidence can be built, but competence I think is super important to me. Like I just can't, you have to get it.
Yeah.
And so his rationale was if you just make the mistake, you'll learn from it anyway. And so he'd rather someone be confident and learn really quickly, whereas I would rather someone have competence and be smart about it. And I don't think there's a right and wrong about it. And I think that represents a lot of how females perceive the world versus how men perceive the world. Men are just like, I don't know if you read Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In.
Of course.
So there's this, I remember there was an essay or there was a chapter around if men, I think if they tick 20 or 30% of the box, they would apply for something, whereas females need to tick about 80% before they go ahead.
100%.
And so females don't back themselves and they don't push forward or they don't go for these opportunities because a lot of the time they think they're not there. And similar with men, they think they've only got 10 to 20% and they just go for it.
Yeah.
And so many times I have to push myself to say, okay, if I was a man, how would I think? And then I just psych myself out because I know a man in a similar situation where he only knows 10 to 15% and he probably is way less competent, way less intelligent, would go for it and I wouldn't, and I would have lost out on the opportunity. And so I think females don't do it enough, and I try to remind all my female friends, you need to do this. Even I remember my second job, this is recorded, but it's fine. I remember my second job, I went for a pay increase and I nearly doubled my salary.
Oh my gosh.
And it's because I listened to this podcast with a male. And the male just said, just ask it. And the worst thing that could happen is
they say
no, right? And I felt so uncomfortable, but I looked at the market rate. I looked at what I could potentially be worth. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to ask for it. And worst case scenario, I'll get 10 or 20K less. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I asked for it. And the manager's just like, yeah, we can make it happen.
What?
I was 25 at the time.
Oh my gosh.
And it just reminded me that if you don't ask, you'll never get it. And I use that experience to share with all my female friends that only generally ask for a 10 or 20K pay increase. That's not enough. If you look at what everyone else is worth, they would probably ask for way more jumps. So I always try to remember that moment to ask for more because the worst thing that happened is no. You might have a bit of embarrassment. That's okay. But you can get the upside far outweighs the downside.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, another example. I had a coffee with a friend. I was potentially trying to bring her over to work for Fuzzy. But when we were talking through job opportunities, she was telling me how she didn't want to ask for too much salary because she felt like she didn't know about the industry. She didn't know about that background. It's her first time working through this project. And I just was like, hey, mate, I'm just going to call you out on this as a friend. I don't think a man would ever do that. Because a male would just be like, yep, I deserve this salary. I'll figure it out on my way. I can figure out day 5 or 10. I don't need to be considerate of the other side. Whereas she came in, she hadn't even started the job yet. She was trying to assess the whole situation and be like, oh, I don't know this, I don't know that. And I was like, a man would never do that. And so I think it's this constant needing to train yourself to be okay with one failure, but then to not how do I explain this? I think I do think a lot of the times females are more well-rounded thinkers.
Yeah.
But I think that is to our demise because you're considerate of everyone, you're considerate of the circumstance, you're considerate of every single thing.
Yeah.
But then you start anchoring yourself to everything that could potentially go wrong as opposed to the one thing that could go right. Whereas a man would just, men are quite smart as well, not saying they're not smart, but they would think about the one thing and they'll just go for that one thing and not really care about sometimes everything around, but then it means you're singular minded and you're not stressing out too much and you just go for it.
Sure.
And so I think, you know, there's statistics, females make better CEOs, but females don't go for it because they're all worried, whereas men would just go for it because they believe in themselves 10 times, 20 times more than a female.
Yeah. I see it every day.
Yeah, there we go.
I would say about 90% of people who reach out to me to be on this podcast are men. I ran a pitch night recently and out of 20 people who applied to pitch, one was female. And she couldn't make it because she had to take her child to hospital because she was caregiving. And it's interesting you speak about Sheryl Sandberg and Lean In. And a huge part of her success lies behind her partner at the time who was so supportive and, you know, when she had a baby, he was there to help the whole time. But she was saying how she was, you know, sending emails after she'd given birth that her husband was so wildly supportive. Sadly, he passed away. But that is, you know, the difference between a woman who can pursue her dreams versus a woman who feels as though she can't and as though she has other responsibilities. And societal pressure really plays into that. And I think there's this huge fear of judgment.
Yes.
That you're not being a good mother, a supportive partner, or you're not thinking about the right things at any given time. And I mean, I wonder if we could argue if men are considering if they're going to be looked at by society as a good father.
Yeah.
And that supportive partner who's making sure that their partner, you know, has everything they need to be able to go to work in the morning.
Yep. No, you're right. I've been asked by investors how old I am, when I'm going to have kids, do I have a partner? How do I think about my future children when I don't want to start having kids? You know, part of me thought it was illegal to ask those sort of questions, but I
feel like it should be.
I think it was the first time I just wasn't prepared for it. So I was like, oh, and I had to, you know, laugh it off awkwardly.
Like, are they rage baiting you? That's just so wild.
I don't know.
What the hell?
I don't know. I was shocked. So I didn't really know how to answer it, and I just, you know, laughed it off. You know, I have a much better answer now. But I think you're right. I think society does treat females slightly differently. Like, I asked my guy mates, hey, have you ever been asked this? And he's like, never once about his family. Whereas I've been asked a lot of times. And you know,
I know that going into job interviews previously, I haven't asked things like, what's your parental leave scheme? Because I don't want them to think, is she gearing up to have a baby and leave? I'm like, no. There's no ring on this finger. No, I'm not. But like, even if I was, what would the issue be? But I find that I don't ask those questions. And then I know a particular time when I did ask for a higher salary, and I am not lying. I was 24, 25, and I was living in London, and salaries were not good. They were not good. And I had been offered £25,000, which roughly equates to 50,000 Australian dollars, to work for this app. And I said, you know what? I was really hoping for 28,000. Could you make that happen? And the employer came back and he said, you know, I find that really annoying. And I'm not joking. The word annoying is what he used. That is more than a junior doctor earns. And I said, okay, I'm sorry. And I shut up and I took my little £25,000. And you know, I had to walk to and from the office every day because I couldn't afford to go on the tube, and that was it. And it stuck with me forever because
that's horrible. I'm sorry you went through that.
But
that's like $3K.
I know. I know. Right. And that app no longer exists. But we don't wish failures. We don't wish failures. But yeah, it's an interesting place to be in. I think, you know, you're going into this industry that is so male dominated, and there's certain things that you would have to do and say when you're going into investor meetings. Have you taken on investment so far?
We've taken on a little bit of investment. We spent probably a little bit of time last year fundraising, and then what's really hard at an early stage company is balancing investment with actually growing the business. And so I felt like I started spending a little bit more time than I would have liked on fundraising. And after like a month, I just decided to shut it down.
Yeah.
Actually, so we already did it for a month. We did get some investment. But then this year I haven't done it at all. I was meaning to, but it's just been on my to-do list, and decided to grow the business because I think if you have, like, we've been growing 50% month on month. And I think it's because I've spent time in the business, and you can only do that. Yeah, I'm really proud of that. I think we've done really well as a small team.
Yeah.
But I probably would go for a proper round next year. But I think it comes to like headspace and being able to do it properly. At the time also I didn't have a co-founder. So I have a co-founder now, so it makes a huge difference. Yeah. I'm very lucky. So,
what were you looking for when you were looking for a co-founder?
I think the typical notion is always complementary skill sets. And I think that is good, and complementary likes and the things that you don't like, because then you can hold on different parts of the business. But now more and more I've seen also with many of my like friends who are going through co-founder breakups, it comes down to values. You spend more time with your co-founder than you do with your partner. It sounds crazy, right? And so you want to make sure you're aligned on the same things. You want to push the company in the same way. You're spending money in the same way. You want to focus on the right things together. You're aligned. You know how to fight well. I think fighting is fine, but being able to fight well to get to the same outcome is really important, and being able to have healthy disagreements is really important. And there's so many components there. And I think people rush into starting a business because they're like, oh, we've got the same skills. But a messy co-founder breakup can cost you time, energy, money, and it's better just to have no co-founder to begin with. Yeah. So, yeah, it's so important to find the right co-founder. It's like nearly more important than finding like your partner. Luckily, I have a really great partner as well, but I think finding both of them takes a lot of thought, and you should be very careful with both of these aspects.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I think a lot of people don't consider that to begin with.
No, I didn't. Yes.
Yeah. And I just always think like, can you really trust anybody? Yeah. Like you're trusting somebody with your baby.
Yeah.
And like that's a huge decision to make. Like, are they going to screw you under the table and try to go for a better deal? I always think about the Call Her Daddy podcast. Ooh, and if you know its origins, there was not just Alex Cooper, there was Sophia. Her surname has eluded me, but it was the two of them for a really long time, and they were at Barstool Sports, and then that, you know, they wanted to scale and grow. They were making a lot of money from the podcast, and Alex signed a deal that Sophia wouldn't, and got rid of her, and now she's one of the highest paid podcasters in the world. And it's so interesting to think, like, could my co-founder be possible, like be capable of thinking in their best interest, and perhaps it is the business's best interest, and would they get rid of the original founder? Like, it's a scary thought.
Yeah.
You know?
That's really sad.
Yeah, it is crazy. Not that I'm putting these ideas in your head. I'm sure this will never happen.
No. I think me and my co-founder have a pretty good relationship now. I don't think that would happen. We're pretty aligned, and we talk through things very well. I think being able to discuss things that we both disagree with, I think we've got a pretty good notion.
Yeah.
So,
and what's been your strategy behind hiring as well?
Yeah, learning this more and more. Hire slowly, fire fast.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of this. A lot of my mentors and advisors have been saying this over and over again. Hiring, you need to have people who have the same, I think I'm going to repeat values so many times today, but I think having the same values as you, has the same work ethic as you, cares about the same things. And it's okay if someone has a different perspective, they're just not the right fit for your business, and that's okay as well. But I think values is number one, and having that strong culture fit. And then number two is skills. So we actually spend a lot of time. We have an assessment day as well that you have to go through a few tests to be able to even go through the culture interview. Oh. And so we've got like a 4-stage process now. It could get longer, but I think making sure that they're, for me, because I care about competence, pretty good in terms of how they execute work and are they smart. And when I say smart, it doesn't necessarily mean you have the skill for it. I look for curiosity and resourcefulness.
Ooh, okay.
So curiosity being, are you asking the right questions? Because if you ask the right questions, you'll figure it out down the line anyway.
Yeah.
And then resourcefulness is, are you Googling, are you calling your friends, are you figuring it out? Because at an early stage startup, you need to, like, no one will know everything. It's impossible to know everything. But if you're curious enough and you try to figure it out, you will get there. It's just a matter of time. So I look for someone not necessarily that has all the right skills, but has the right attitude and is relatively quick to start learning. And then, the culture part and the values part.
Have you had any real life experience with a bad hire that's affected the business in a negative way?
I have. Yeah, I have.
It's a rough journey.
Yeah, it is a rough journey because you can start seeing some of their language still stay around in the business and like negative, like, this is like one of my, I don't know if this is bad or good, but one of my pet peeves is saying that this is too hard.
Yeah.
Because I would rather someone say, how do we figure it out? Or how do we do this? How do we brainstorm together? Because it's hard if you just give it. Because I feel like when you say something is too hard, you're almost giving up. You don't even try. And so I've started seeing that word permeate to one of our new employees, which I haven't liked. So I'm trying to like kill it. But it's really that saying that one bad egg can really ruin the mix. And so, I mean, she's good, but she just wasn't the right fit for the business. And so I think having the right people really early on, having the same language, having the right mindset is so important because things like that could happen and it creates an attitude of, I don't want to do this. And we can't do that. We're a startup. We're small. We need to think really quickly. We need to move really quickly and make mistakes and learn from them. And if you just say it's hard, you won't make mistakes, you won't learn, you won't move quickly. So
totally.
Yeah, I'm probably biased because that happened recently.
Oh, bless you. Sorry to.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
What
it's
a
fine.
sore
Yeah.
point.
It's okay.
But you've come from a startup that, scaled super quickly due to like a surge in demand. Can you walk me through what that has taught you as a founder and, how you run your own business?
Yeah, I think people hate this word processes. I know you like this word.
Oh my God, I love processes. Yeah. I'm obsessed.
I think having the right processes for every stage is very important.
Totally.
I think you have a certain set of processes from when you're 1 to 10 people. And then, so I worked at different stage startups. I was a 10-person one, a 50-person one, a 200-person one. And I've also worked at like IBM and ANZ. So I've worked at large enterprises as well. And I think people hate the word processes because it's a dirty word. It's like, it's so corporate-like. But it actually helps something scale very well. And it doesn't mean that you have the same processes and over again. You need to innovate on those processes too. So I truly believe that you need processes from, 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 50, 50 to 300. And they should all be different because you're at different stages of the business. Yeah. I think when we were scaling at that business, we were a really large business, a 200-person company, but we were running as if we were a 10 to 20 person. And so it got super chaotic. I remember we were coming in, we didn't have a roadmap. It's very different for my brain. And so I think being able to be very thoughtful in each stage is really important. And having the right processes for each stage and where you are is really important. I know that, you don't want to have death by admin, and I completely agree with that. But then if you have 100 people running in different directions, that's also not great as well.
Yeah, and I also think that it blocks you in terms of scaling new people because new people come on and it takes so long to train them because nothing's written down. Yeah. There's no like, hey, here's our process. Go ahead and work with it. Like I love process software. My favorite is Asana. I am obsessed. Like the AI integrations that it has recently come up with, just game changing.
Amazing.
And when people are like, but I made this Google Doc. I'm horrified. Like it absolutely kills me. And I know I sound annoying. I know I do. Yep. But I know that it works.
For change management, you have to.
Yeah, 100%. And then you've got a record of things that worked well, things that didn't, and you can change based on your learnings and data and things that happen. So I think it's essential. Did you see when you were working at this larger company, that has essentially got larger in 6 months, did you see that there were a lot of failings because of that and a lot of money lost because they didn't stick to any processes?
So I think their onboarding was actually very good. They onboarded every single person in the company very good because they went from 30 to 200 in 6 months. So I think the onboarding was very good. But I think internally in each department needed work. So I was in the product space, and I think because everyone was running different directions, you could almost see some level of duplication where people were working on the same work or people were working on completely sporadic things that didn't align. And so I think
so there's a cross functionality that was breaking down as well.
Yep. Cross functionality, being able to work across different teams, being able to align, even having a roadmap. We didn't have a roadmap week to week, which I thought was crazy. I pushed for it, but then the thinking behind it was we are a startup, so we don't have that. But I feel like when you're at 200 people, it's you do need some level of alignment,
and
especially
visibility.
And visibility so that everyone is aligned to the same thing. And so we had 5 different teams working on slightly different things that you would be told by one person, but it's not aligned in different ways. And so, I think from a learning perspective, I would definitely be super clear on what the vision is, how does everything impact that overall vision, how it works together. But it didn't feel like any of those different things gelled, and I don't think people understood why they were doing things. They were doing it for the sake of doing it, and I think that also impacts morale as well.
Yeah, of course.
And so, if I were to, and I get to that point, I would be very thoughtful in how every step of scaling would work, how you'd build a team and processes for 50 people versus 100 versus 200. I think it'll be very different across each side, but I think being very thoughtful before even hiring people in, because then you're having people that are around that they're doing something because they think they need to do something, but they're not sure why. And that actually creates a lot of confusion.
The why is so essential.
Exactly.
People forget about the why always.
Exactly.
And I think that fresh eyes actually are a good way to rediscover your why.
Yep.
Because people are saying, okay, so why do we do this way? And why have we done this in the past? And it's so essential, and everybody needs to be on board with the why.
Yes, exactly. And there's 3 things that normally keeps an employee around. It's mastery, autonomy, and purpose. Mastery is, are you getting better at your craft? Autonomy is, do you have decision-making power, or do you have the freedom to do what you want? And purpose is your why, and you're heading towards the right direction. If your employees don't feel these 3 things, they probably won't stick around for a very long time as well. So making sure that everyone has these 3 things is really important for every company.
How do you ensure that your employees are feeling those 3 elements so that they are retained? Because retention is so important in terms of making sure that you're working in an economic way as a business. You're not burning through money trying to hire new people and train them.
I think it depends on the level of the business and the level of the role. So Jensen Huang says he never has one-on-ones. So Jensen Huang, the CEO, founder of NVIDIA, I think he has 48 direct reports, which is crazy.
It's a few too many to be doing direct one-to-ones at that point.
Yeah, so then his philosophy is everyone's probably smarter than me in their own respective areas. They will find time with me. I'm not going to have a one-on-one with them. So then in that sense, everyone's running their own decisions. Everyone's aligned on the culture and value, and everyone has the autonomy to do whatever they want. So in that case, it's more of a, here's a direction. Do you understand it? And then making sure that everyone's on the same page. Yeah. But then if you go lower and you have employees that are less skilled, that's when they need the one-on-ones. They need nurturing. They need to understand how they align to the business. They need to know how they grow their skills. And that's when you want to spend more time with them, training them up. So I think there are different frameworks depending on how big your company is, but also the level of the company. And so in terms of retention, I think you should have a different map and onboarding plan, and also check in according to where they are in the business.
Yeah, right. I think there's also that emotional safety that needs to be there.
Yeah, no, that's a huge one. So I think it's seen as such a whatever word, actually. I love that you've brought it up, because being able to talk back to a manager or to give ideas is so important. But if there's no emotional safety, you actually don't grow as a business.
Totally.
And so being able to be like, oh, yep, that's a good point. We're going to do it later. Or, hey, that's a good point, but have you considered these things? I think it's so important for every startup, because if you're not emotionally safe, you actually won't grow the business at all. So
because then nobody's going to feel as though it's a safe space for them to share any kind of feedback. And it's such a shame. It's such a missed opportunity.
And new ideas as well.
Yeah, totally. And I think, it's the retention part as well. If people are coming to work and they don't feel safe enough to share their ideas, then they're like, oh, you know what? I don't think that my opinion is really valued. Maybe it will be valued at this other place.
Exactly.
So that's something I've found as a manager is I always want my direct reports to feel like they can come to me and that they're going to be heard and that there's actually going to be actions.
Yeah.
And it seems so simple when you say it out loud, but I think a lot of the time people really forget about it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ego.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
A lot of ego.
Yeah. And I think the best bosses I've had in the past are ones who don't have that.
Yes.
And are ones who say, I'm not perfect. I don't know everything.
Yeah.
That's why I have employees
exactly.
to do it because I don't have any idea.
Exactly.
But they're curious. They're like, how would you do this?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I might do it in this way, but can you show me how you would do it? And I think it's such a great way to grow as a business founder as well, is picking up those things. What would you say is like the biggest mistake that you've made as a business founder that you've learned the most from? It's a big question. So
it's a big question. I'm like, which mistake? Biggest mistake. Biggest mistake. I can't name one in particular.
So nothing has traumatized you that much. I think that's a good sign.
I mean, lots of things have traumatized me, but I think mistakes shape me to who I am today, and I think mistakes are important. I would say if I were to think about mistakes, it would be back to the topic that we talked about earlier around self-doubt. Yeah. Every time I've doubted myself and procrastinated a little on it, if I just did it, it would have gone so much faster and I would have made the mistake faster.
Yeah.
I don't mind that if I make mistakes because I think it makes you learn faster. I think speed is really important. But sometimes when I have held self-doubt, I'm like, oh, maybe it's not a good idea. Most times I've realized I have actually pretty good ideas and they work. But then sometimes I'm worried about being a bit too edgy or a bit too different in the self-doubt. So every time I remember it, and then every time that happens now, I have to remember, okay, what's the good? Think of the ultimate good and the potential bad, and normally the good outweighs the bad. And so just doing it would be the times where I would say are my biggest mistakes, where I didn't go as fast as I would have liked. But other than that, I think mistakes are important. Every founder should have mistakes.
I'll give you a little bit of leeway because women in particular are more risk averse.
Yeah.
So you're just being risk averse. You're just being female. It's really not your fault at the end of the day. So I think taking risks is such a tricky thing. It's so outside of our comfort zone as women. And interestingly, when I'm working on capital raising campaigns, the majority of investors in early stage high risk startups are men.
Interesting.
Because the women are like, oh, look, this is a hugely risky investment for me. I just don't think I can invest as much. Whereas the bloke's like, I'll take a whack at it.
Yeah.
We'll see what can happen.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating to witness. And it breaks my heart because so many times when I've had female founders come onto a digital investment platform that I've worked for and I see that they've got a majority female audience, I go, shit, we're going to struggle to convert them into larger investors here. And it's so disappointing because where do you begin to change that and like shift that mindset from an investor and also from a founder perspective? You know, it is a big risk taking on investment as well.
Yeah.
Starting a business to begin with.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. I personally would never do it. I look at every founder that I interview and I say, you must be crazy. Like, it is so all-consuming. Like, I bet you go to bed at night and you're lying there thinking of 20 things that you could be doing to improve your business.
Yeah.
Do you find that exhausting?
Or
are you addicted to it at this point?
I think I'm probably a bit addicted to it. I don't find it exhausting. I do feel It's the opposite, actually. I feel overwhelmed sometimes. I have too many ideas. I'm like, okay, which one do I need to do first? And so I'm like super lucky where I really enjoy my work. I really love my customers. I feel like I'm in a really good spot because I know that not every founder can say that.
Yeah.
But I don't think exhausting is the right word. I think it's more trying to manage what's the most important thing is probably always, I think everyone talks about prioritization. What should you be focusing on at that particular time is probably the biggest one that's always on my mind. I'm like, okay, no, stop thinking about this. You'll think about this later. This will be a later project. And so always reminding myself, I'm like, this is what I need to focus on now. These are the projects for later. I think that's what consumes a lot of like me just trying to prioritize. And so I always have a lot of ideas, but I really enjoy it. But yeah, it is, I do have long days, but it goes by so quickly.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Do you have any mentors that kind of help you to make those decisions and to kind of prioritize your time?
Yes-ish. Yeah, one of my investors, he's amazing. I think I have mentors in terms of I'd get feedback, but I think it's always best if the founder makes the decision.
Yeah.
Because you know your business best. So one of my investors, he helped grow Airbnb in APAC.
Okay.
Absolutely amazing. He's now retired, living his best life.
Jealous.
Shout out to Come Hong if you ever watch this. But I think because he's run such a big company before, and he's grown it from pretty much nothing, was one of the first few employees.
Wow.
I think getting a perspective on how to prioritize and what's most important, and then also not forgetting it's just work, like think about employees and the strategy and everything around it. I think that's always good to sense check. But I think in terms of what you should actually do, I then try to default to talk to the customers, try to see how we can differentiate, and then also think about what would be like 5 to 6 months from now and making sure that we don't build something that's redundant that'll be built by OpenAI.
Yeah.
Right. So I think decision would always come back to me in terms of how I prioritize, but I would always get different inputs. So people who have done it before, people who are potentially my customers, and then people who would have either tried to build it in before so I can understand how long it'll take, or people who have already failed in that particular area. So there's a combination of a few.
Yeah. No, you speak with such a level of confidence. I love that you say, no, the final decision comes down to me and my experience and what I've learned, and you believe in your decision making, which is really unusual to see. I know that like you probably don't know that because it is so lonely at the top. If you are a CEO or a founder and you are running it and you feel that weight of responsibility, and I bet no one's checking in and saying, hey, how you going? You okay?
Yeah.
Are you feeling like overstimulated at the moment? Is this giving you too much of a headache? How can we help?
Yeah.
So nobody's like reaching out to check in. And that can be really, really tough.
Yeah.
Like, what are the ways that you take care of yourself in this position?
Yeah. Well, that's such a good observation. I think it is very lonely. I think I've actually had a very good co-founder, so he can tell when things are not okay. So it's
amazing.
He checks in. He's like, "Hey, I can feel something's up. What's up?" And it's funny because sometimes even I can't pinpoint why I'm feeling a bit iffy at the time, and then I'm like, "Okay, I can verbalize it. Okay, these are the things." It's like I'm thinking about this strategy, yada yada. So talking to my co-founder is really good. I think having a very good support network in terms of a founder community is really important because it'll be different industries, but they almost understand what you're going through and how to think of it different ways, because there are similar principles that happen at every stage of startup and how you grow the business. So chances are someone's already gone through what you've gone through before. So being able to find the right people around you that could give you feedback that are rooting for you is so important. So I think, what you said around ego, there are some groups where you just feel like you can't speak or anything because there's a lot of ego and you don't want to hurt everyone's feelings or whatever.
Yeah.
But having a really good set of friends and support network that are going through a similar stage, and, startups are nowhere close to perfect. There's so many issues we have all the time, and just being very real about it. I'm incredibly lucky to have a really good group of people around me that I can just always, sometimes be like, I'm just feeling really overwhelmed, and they're like, okay, and they help me workshop it, and I'll do the exact same for them as well. Like they'll be like, okay, I don't know how to do the sales and marketing thing, and I'll spend like 20 minutes with them, and then they're like, okay, cool. So support network. And then third, friends, family, and partner. So my partner's super supportive. He's always got my back, and he's very helpful when I'm not sure about something. He would never touch the startup world, which I think makes it even better. So it's a lot of safety there.
Yeah.
And then, friends and family have been very, very supportive on our journey as well.
Oh, honestly, it feels like you have it all together, and I'm sure there's some days where you don't think so. And I really hope that for everybody listening that they feel inspired, particularly female founders, to, believe in themselves more, back themselves, and be more confident, and, embrace your inner straight white man and just get the job done. If you could bottle it, that's a business. That's what we need.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like a real Harry Potter nerd, and I don't know if you've seen the film when Harry gives Ron this liquid luck that he's won in class, and Ron does all these amazing things in the day, and then it's revealed that Harry never even gave it to him.
Oh,
he just believed that he had it, and so he felt this confidence. Yeah, and it's almost as if we all believed that we had this liquid luck.
Yep.
And the luckiest people are the ones who say, "I'm just really lucky."
I do think I'm very lucky. Yeah, no, it's true that I do think I'm very lucky. Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
I have a friend who. She's like, I deliberately don't enter competitions because I always win them. I was like, that's ridiculous. Why would you not enter them? She works for this like unicorn, silly like American company that pays her far too much. And she entered this competition to win an all expenses paid trip to the Masters in the US. She doesn't even like golf. And she just had to make this video. She's like, oh, I'm not going to win. Won it immediately. Wow. Then there was another competition at work to win this $500 voucher for something, and someone was like, oh, you should enter. She's like, no, I'll win it. Don't let me enter. She won it.
Love that.
It's just that's that belief, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have the belief, who else is going to believe in you?
Yep. You got to back yourself 100%. I think females in particular don't back themselves enough. And I love what you said around channeling your inner white straight male. Every time I doubt myself, I'm like, what would a male do? I'm like, okay, they'll just go for it. I'm like, cool, I'm just going to do it, whatever. Yeah. And turns out the win outweighs any scare. You'll forget about any of the scare that you had in the first place because your wins are so high.
Totally. Oh, thank you so much for coming into the studio and for putting yourself out there. I never get women in here. And it's such a nice change that we could, talk about our female rage, which was such a treat for me. Thank you for doing everything that you're doing and for being such an inspiration for other females, particularly female founders who are trying to make it. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I've had a really good time.
Oh, good. Me too.